Hello. Welcome to Freedom in Humanity. Please subscribe to my channel after watching the video. This video is the 25th part of Prophets of God. The video is about the prophet of God named Muhammad and the third part. Please stay with us until the end of this video. Succession of the Prophet. While Imam Ali and Bani Hashim were bathing the Prophet, some elders of the people of Medina and 3 emigrants, regardless of what the Prophet had said in the incident of Ghadir 2 months ago, gathered in a place called Saqafa Bani Sada, and they disputed the appointment of a caliph and finally agreed to the caliphate of Abu Bakr. After that, these people started to take forced allegiance from the Muslims present in the city of Medina. Prophetic biography and character of the Prophet. Various books and researches have been written about the method and type of behavior of the Prophet, which is referred to as the prophetic tradition, throughout the history of Islam. Given that God has said about his messenger, it is certainly a good example for you to follow the messenger of God. Muslims have considered recognizing the behavior of the Prophet in various aspects of life. Examples of different aspects of the Prophet's personality include: nickname. The Prophet had lived among the people for 40 years before the resurrection. His life was free of hypocrisy, ugly traits, and bad moods. He was considered honest and trustworthy by others. Later, when the Prophet conveyed his message, the polytheists did not deny him personally but denied the verses. This is also stated in the Quran: "They do not accuse you of lying, but these oppressors deny the divine revelations." It is also narrated from Abu Yal that he said, "We do not deny you, but we do not accept these verses." At the beginning of announcing his mission to the Quraysh, the Prophet said to them, "If I inform you that an army has gathered behind this mountain, will you accept my words?" Everyone said, "Yes, we have never heard a lie from you." Then the Prophet said that he was sent by God to warn the people. In addition to Nick's past, the importance of his tribe and family, as well as the Prophet's identity to the Arabs, also played a role in the Prophet's status and success. The Quraysh tribe was a well-known and important tribe among the Arabs for many years. This importance caused many tribes to accept their superiority and to some extent follow them in some matters. On the other hand, the ancestors of the Prophet were those who were known to the Arabs as honorable and great. Ethics. The highest and most obvious characteristic of the Prophet was his moral dimension. The Quran says, "You rely on a great and precious morality." In describing the behavior and attributes of the Prophet, it is said that he was often silent and did not speak except when needed. He never opened his whole mouth, smiled more, and never laughed out loud. Because he wanted to turn to someone, he would come back with his whole body. He was very interested in cleanliness and fragrance, so much so that because he was passing by, passers-by would notice his presence due to the pleasant smell. He lived in simplicity, sat on the ground and ate on the ground, and was never arrogant. He never ate enough, and in many cases, especially when he had just arrived in Medina, he was hungry. However, because the monks did not live and claimed that he had enjoyed the blessings of the world to the fullest. He had both fasted and worshipped. His treatment of Muslims and even of believers in other religions was a method based on compassion, magnanimity, forgiveness, and kindness. His character and life were so pleasing to the hearts of Muslims that they quoted it down to the smallest detail and still use it as a model for their life and religion. Describing the Prophet's face, Amir al-Mu'minin says, "Everyone who saw him without prior acquaintance was amazed. Everyone who socialized with him and got acquainted with him became his friend." The Prophet divided his gaze among his companions and looked at everyone equally. The Messenger of God never shook hands with anyone who took his hand away from him except to pull the other side first. The Prophet talked to everyone according to his capacity and intellect. His pardon and forgiveness to anyone who had wronged him was well known, so much so that he even forgave the killer of his uncle Hamza and Abu Sufyan, a longtime enemy of Islam. Asceticism. The Prophet lived ascetically. He did not have his own corners all his life, and the humble rooms of Glen, which were next to his wife's private mosque, had arches made of palm wood, and instead of doors, curtains hung from goat hair or camel hair. He had a pillow under his head that was filled with palm leaves. It had a leather mattress full of palm leaves on which he sat all his life. His undergarment was made of coarse cloth that ate the body and had a robe of camel hair. This was while after the Battle of Hunain, 4,000 camels, more than 40,000 sheep and a large amount of gold and silver were given to this and that. His food from home and furniture was also ascetic. Many months had passed since his house was not lit for cooking. His food was all dates and barley bread. Never eat food for 2 days in a row. He did not get up from the table twice a day. It was often the case that he and his family slept on hungry nights. One day, Fatima brought yoni bread to him and said, "I baked bread and I did not want to bring it to you." He ate it and said, "This is the only food your father has been eating for 3 days." One day when one of the Ansar eats dates in the grove, he said, "It is the 4th day that I have not eaten anything." Sometimes, due to the severity of hunger, a stone was tied to the abdomen to relieve hunger. At the time of his death, his armor was held hostage by a Jew for 30 measures of barley. Order and neatness. The Prophet was very orderly in life. After the construction of the mosque, he named each pillar to indicate what is being done next to the columns: the pillar of food, the place of the delegations, the pillar of tahajjud, the place of the night of resurrection, arranged the prayer lines in such a way that it was as if he were matching the poles of the arrows and saying, "Servants of God, arrange your ranks, otherwise your hearts will be divided." He was also regular in his life. He divided his time into 3 parts. He devoted part to the worship of God, part to his family, and part to himself, and then divided the part between himself and the people. The Prophet looked in the mirror, straightened his hair and combed his hair, and adorned himself not only for his family but also for his companions. He also paid attention to his appearance during his travels and always had 5 things with him: mirrors, kohlrabi, combs, toothbrushes and scissors. Illiterate prophet. The illiterate prophet is a Quranic description of the prophet, meaning a prophet who was uneducated and unfamiliar with writing. The Quran considers illiteracy to be one of the attributes introduced to the Prophet of Islam in the Torah and the Bible. Illiteracy has been considered a virtue for the Prophet of Islam, because the Prophet, although he did not have the literacy to read and write to learn science, but he had heavenly knowledge and provided the means of guidance and salvation for human beings. Scholars believe that bringing a Quran that contains various sciences and wisdoms by a person who has learned to read and write is considered a divine miracle. Valuable sentences of the Prophet of Islam. The believer should not be satisfied without his neighbor. The believer should not ambush anyone's blood. Faith without action and action without faith is not accepted. There are 3 things that cannot be done in anyone who is not there: piety that keeps him from sinning, and morality that tolerates people, and piety that repels the style of the frivolous. Be careless with people so that they will be careless with you. The reward of goodness and the bonding of relatives come sooner than other virtues, and the punishment for oppression and cutting off relatives comes faster than other evils. The plague of religion is 3 things: the wicked knower, the wicked leader, and the ignorant seeker. The most hated thing in the sight of God is divorce. Make friends with the poor because they have a great government on the day of judgment. The best servants before God are those whose creation is better. The most beloved servants of God in the sight of God is the one who is most useful to the servants of God. The best of you are those who are better for their wives. The position of the Prophet in Shiite beliefs. According to Shiite beliefs, Muhammad is a prophet and messenger, and since he was the seal of the prophets, no prophet will come after him. Muhammad is one of the first prophets and has brought a new law from God for mankind. The prophet is the first of the 14 infallibles. He was infallible not only in receiving and communicating revelation but in all areas of life. Miracles have also been narrated from the Prophet, the most important of which is the Quran. 14 innocents or 14 holy lights. Number 1. Hazrat Muhammad, Pbuh, the Prophet of Islam. Number 2. Imam Ali, peace on him. Number 3. Hazrat Fatima, peace on him. Number 4. Imam Hassan, peace on him. Number 5. Imam Hussein, peace on him. Number 6. Imam Sajid, peace on him. Number 7. Imam Muhammad Baqir, peace on him. Number 8. Imam Sadiq, peace on him. Number 9. Imam Musa Kazem, peace on him. Number 10. Imam Reza, peace on him. Number 11. Imam Javed, peace on him. Number 12. Imam Hadi, peace on him. Number 13. Imam Hassan Askari, peace on him. Number 14. Imam Mahdi, peace on him. Thank you dear friends for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Try to be a good person and with God. Freedom in humanity.